When a Harvard University psychology professor extended an invitation to Elon Musk's 5-year-old son, X, to participate in a study on child development, she anticipated the typical responses one might expect from the offspring of one of the world's most innovative minds. During the evaluation, Dr. Chen posed a standard question she had asked hundreds of children over her 25-year career: if you could possess any superpower in the world, what would it be? Most youngsters opt for flight, super strength, or invisibility. Yet X's reply was so startling, so profoundly distinct from anything she had ever encountered, that the esteemed Harvard scholar found herself utterly speechless. His words unveiled a depth of wisdom and empathy that challenged the assumptions of the adults in the room about intelligence, success, and what truly holds value in life. The revelation from Elon Musk's 5-year-old son will leave you astonished. The invitation originated from Dr. Margaret Chen, a highly respected Harvard professor specializing in child development and psychology. She was leading a long-term study into the cognitive growth of children from families marked by exceptional achievement, and Elon Musk had consented to allow his 5-year-old son, X, to join what was described as a series of informal assessments and discussions. The request arrived at Elon's office 3 weeks prior, penned on Harvard University letterhead. Dr. Chen outlined her research project with clarity, explaining that she was exploring how children from families excelling in business, science, art, or politics develop their understanding of success, intellect, and personal aspirations. The study involved no invasive tests, only gentle conversations aimed at uncovering how these children perceive their surroundings. Elon scrutinized the proposal carefully. As someone deeply invested in education and cognitive development, he found the research compelling. However, he was equally protective of his children's privacy and wary of subjecting them to undue pressure. After consulting X's mother and securing her approval, he agreed to a single session, with the understanding that further participation would depend on how X responded to the experience. Now, as Elon strolled with his son across Harvard's historic campus on a crisp autumn morning, he pondered what insights Dr. Chen might glean from their conversation. X walked beside him, clutching his father's hand, his eyes wandering over the grand old buildings and the students hurrying across the yard with backpacks and coffee cups. This was a stark contrast to their usual environments in Texas or California, and Elon noticed his son's natural curiosity sparked by the unfamiliar setting. "This is a very old school," Elon explained as they walked. "People have been learning here for almost 400 years. X's eyes widened. "That's older than Grandma and Grandpa." Elon chuckled. "Much older. It was here long before they were born, even before their grandparents were born." "Will I study here someday?" X asked, gazing around with interest. "When you grow up, you can attend any school you choose," Elon replied. "But for now, let's meet Dr. Chen. She just wants to chat with you and ask a few questions about what you think about different things." X nodded, appearing unconcerned about the upcoming session. At 5, he was an adaptable child, typically comfortable meeting new people and eager to share his thoughts on almost any subject. His natural openness proved advantageous during Dr. Chen's study. Dr. Chen's office in Harvard's William James Building was designed to put children at ease: colorful rugs, cozy seating, and shelves brimming with books and educational toys. When Elon arrived with X for the scheduled meeting, the professor greeted them warmly and explained that she simply wished to talk with X to understand his perspectives on various concepts. The office, located on the 4th floor, featured large windows offering a view of the campus. Unlike the sterile labs often associated with psychological research, Dr. Chen had crafted a space reminiscent of a snug living room or intimate classroom. Her bookshelf held not only scholarly texts but also children's books of varying complexity. Tables were strewn with art supplies, building blocks, and simple puzzles. The walls displayed photographs of children worldwide engaged in learning activities. Dr. Chen, a woman around 50 with short, salt and pepper hair and glasses dangling from a beaded necklace, wore casual business attire, slacks and a plain blouse, rather than a formal suit. Her warm smile instantly put both father and son at ease. "Thank you for coming today," she said, leaning slightly to speak to X at eye level. I'm Dr. Chen, and I'm eager to learn how children like you see the world. X looked at her with curiosity. Do you talk to lots of kids? Yes, she replied with a smile. It's my favorite part of my job. Every child has unique ideas and thoughts, and I learn something new from each conversation. She turned to include Elon. Mr. Musk, you're welcome to stay for the entire session. I find children this age usually feel more at ease with a parent present, though I'll be directing questions to X. There are no right or wrong answers, Dr. Chen assured both father and son. I'm simply interested in how you see the world, X. She guided them deeper into the office, showing X different activity areas. You can sit wherever you like and play with any materials while we talk. Some children enjoy drawing or building as we chat. Elon took a seat by the window, while X opted to sit cross-legged on a soft rug, immediately noticing a set of wooden blocks nearby. Dr. Chen settled onto a low chair beside X, with a notebook and recorder at hand. May I record our conversation? She asked X. That way, I can remember all the interesting things you tell me without writing everything down. X nodded, already starting to stack the wooden blocks. That's okay. My dad sometimes records important meetings too. Dr. Chen began with easy questions about X's favorite activities, friends, and family, creating a relaxed atmosphere before moving to more complex topics. What do you enjoy doing in your free time? She asked. I like building things, X replied, continuing to stack blocks and mentioning books about space animals. Sometimes Dad and I do science experiments in the kitchen. That sounds fascinating, Dr. Chen said. Do you have friends you play with? X nodded. I have friends at school. We play robots at recess, and sometimes they come to my house to play. I also have brothers and sisters, but some are older than me. Dr. Chen jotted notes as X spoke, occasionally asking follow-up questions about his school experiences or family dynamics. She guided the conversation with a gentle, natural tone, avoiding a clinical feel, and X responded with increasing openness. After about 15 minutes of introductory questions, Dr. Chen shifted to more conceptual themes to assess X's grasp of abstract ideas. X. I'd like to ask you about some ideas that might seem challenging, she said gently. Can you tell me what you think it means to be smart? X looked up from his blocks, his young face turning thoughtful. Smart means knowing lots of things, he answered simply. Dr. Chen nodded encouragingly. That's one important aspect of being smart. Can you think of others? X considered this, carefully placing another block on his growing structure. Smart is when you can figure things out, like when something breaks and you know how to fix it. That's a good answer, Dr. Chen responded. Do you think your dad is smart? Yes, X nodded. He knows how to build cars, rockets, and lots of other stuff. From his spot by the window, Elon listened with interest. He'd never directly asked X about his views on intelligence or how he perceived his father's work. Like many busy parents, their talks typically revolved around immediate events rather than abstract concepts. Do you think you're smart? Dr. Chen asked. X shrugged with a charming, casual gesture. Sometimes I read well and remember dinosaur names, but I can't tie my shoelaces yet, so I'm not smart at everything. Dr. Chen smiled at his honest self-assessment. That's a very thoughtful answer. Being smart in some areas and still learning others is normal for everyone, even adults. Dr. Chen continued her inquiries, exploring X's understanding of learning, problem-solving, and achievement. His responses were typical for his age, concrete, rooted in observable actions, and heavily influenced by his immediate environment. She asked what it meant to learn something new, how people solve problems, and what he thought it meant to do something well. X answered each question with a straightforward 5-year-old perspective, occasionally pausing to add a block to his creation or adjust his position on the rug. When you grow up, what do you think you'd like to do? Dr. Chen asked, posing a standard question from her assessment protocol. X pondered this seriously. Maybe I'll build things like Dad, or maybe I'll be a doctor who helps sick animals, or maybe I'll make movies. I'm not sure yet. It's great to consider different possibilities, Dr. Chen reassured him. You have plenty of time to decide. Then she posed a question that, while routine in her assessments, proved unexpectedly revealing. X, if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be? This was a favorite in Dr. Chen's protocol, as children's answers often revealed their values, fears, and views on power. Young children typically chose abilities reflecting developmental concerns: super speed to avoid danger, invisibility to dodge awkward moments, or super strength to overcome physical limits. X paused in building his structure and thought deeply. Dr. Chen anticipated the usual 5-year-old replies: flying, super strength, or invisibility, responses that would shed light on his developmental stage and imaginative thinking. Instead, X said something that gave both adults pause. I'd like to have the power to make sad people happy, he said calmly, returning to his blocks as if stating the most obvious choice imaginable. Dr. Chen blinked in surprise, taken aback by the response. After 25 years of such evaluations, children typically selected powers that benefited themselves, abilities making them stronger, faster, or more adventurous. She glanced at her notes, ensuring the recorder was still running. This unusual answer warranted careful analysis later. That's interesting, X, she said, leaning forward slightly. Why did you choose that power? X kept stacking his blocks as he replied. Because when people are sad, they can't enjoy good things. Like when Mom was sad after the divorce from Dad, she couldn't even smile when I showed her my drawings. But when she got happy again, she could laugh at my jokes. The honesty and compassion in his answer caught Dr. Chen off guard. She glanced at Elon, who listened with evident surprise and pride. From his window seat, Elon felt a surge of emotion at his son's words. The divorce had been tough on everyone involved, but he and his ex-wife had strived to shield their children from the worst of their adult conflicts. Yet Elon clearly recognized his mother's emotional state and was struck by it in a way Elon couldn't fully grasp. Moreover, Elon noted a profound insight about human happiness, that emotional well-being affects our ability to find joy in everyday moments, a realization many adults never fully grasp. His 5-year-old son expressed it with simple clarity. How would you use that power? Dr. Chen asked, now genuinely intrigued. X looked up from his blocks, his 5-year-old face serious. I'd go to places where people are sad and help them remember good things. Like if someone's upset about losing a job, I'd help them recall that they still have people who love them. Or if someone feels lonely, I'd help them see there are always people needing friends. As he spoke, X continued working on his block structure, which was taking shape as something resembling a building. His small hands moved with purpose, carefully placing each block, his mind seemingly engaged with both the construction and Dr. Chen's questions. Dr. Chen fell silent for a moment. It wasn't just the boy's refined emotional thinking that impressed her, but his instinctive care for others' well-being. Unlike most children, who sought powers for personal gain, X displayed an empathy remarkable for his age. He chose a strength entirely focused on helping others feel better, not by giving material things or altering circumstances, but by restoring a positive outlook lost to suffering. X, she said cautiously, do you often think about sad people? Sometimes, X replied, now building what looked like a small house with blocks. At the store, I see people who look tired and worried. And on TV, they show people who've lost homes or don't have enough food. Dad says he's trying to fix some of those problems with his work, but I think people also need someone to help them feel better while they wait for those fixes. Across the room, Elon felt a lump in his throat. His work had always been driven by a desire to tackle humanity's greatest, most complex challenges: sustainable energy, off-world living, AI for human benefit. These were systemic, global solutions, but X highlighted something equally vital: the human need for emotional support and connection in tough times. This was a perspective Elon sometimes overlooked, focused as he was on technological fixes. Yet his young son instinctively grasped the importance of addressing both practical and emotional struggles. Silence filled the room, broken only by the soft clinks of X carefully stacking blocks. Dr. Chen reviewed her notes, realizing this child had articulated what most adults miss, the distinction between solving practical issues and meeting emotional needs. X, that's a very wise approach to helping people, Dr. Chen said. Where did you learn to think about others' feelings this way? X shrugged, as children do when unaware they've said something extraordinary. I just notice when people look sad. And I remember how nice it feels when someone helps me feel better when I'm sad. His response lacked self-satisfaction or awareness of its uniqueness. For X, this was simply his view of the world, a place where noticing others' emotions and wanting to help was natural and obvious. Dr. Chen turned to Elon, her professional composure slightly shaken. Mr. Musk, in all my years of these assessments, I've never met a child who chose a superpower solely focused on easing others' emotional pain. Most kids this age are naturally self-centered. This level of empathic thinking is quite rare. Elon, listening to his son with growing amazement, said quietly, I'm learning things about him I didn't know. This was a humble admission from a man accustomed to leading innovation and intellectual frontiers, yet here, in this university office, he was struck by the depth of compassion and wisdom in his 5-year-old son, qualities perhaps not fully revealed in their daily home interactions. Dr. Chen turned back to X, who was now finishing his block structure. X, what have you built there? The creation had taken the form of a recognizable house with walls, windows, and what appeared to be a pitched roof. X had arranged blocks of various colors and patterns, suggesting a deliberate design rather than random stacking. It's a house where sad people can come to remember happy moments, X explained, adding a final block to what looked like a chimney. There's a big kitchen for cooking favorite meals, lots of windows so people can see the sun still shines, and comfy chairs for sharing stories about good times. He pointed to different parts of his block creation, describing them. This is a garden where people can plant flowers and watch them grow, and this is a special room with happy memories on the walls. And here's a spot for art or music to help people feel better. The simplicity and thoughtfulness of his creation left Dr. Chen searching for words. She'd conducted hundreds of such evaluations but had never seen a child spontaneously build something designed solely to comfort others. That's a wonderful structure. What have I taught you? Her question was somewhat rhetorical, but X's direct response reminded her that children often take things literally and expect straight answers. She pondered how to express what she'd learned in a way a 5-year-old could grasp. You taught me that the most powerful thing anyone can do is help others feel less alone in this world, she replied. X nodded, as if it were obvious. My mom always says everyone needs someone who cares about them. As they gathered their belongings and prepared to leave, Dr. Chen shook Elon's hand. Thank you for bringing X today. This was one of the most fascinating sessions I've conducted for my study. With your permission, I'd like to continue the conversation as he grows. I think that would be fine, Elon agreed, glancing at his son, who was examining a globe on one of the bookshelves. He seemed to enjoy the experience. He's an extraordinary child, Dr. Chen said quietly, ensuring X couldn't hear. His emotional intelligence is exceptional, especially his capacity for empathy. These qualities aren't always recognized or valued in our achievement-driven society, but they're crucial for fostering positive relationships. Elon nodded, taking in her professional assessment. Honestly, I've focused more on his cognitive development, reading level, grasp of scientific concepts, problem-solving skills. Maybe I haven't paid enough attention to these emotional strengths. That's common for many parents, especially those with a strong intellectual bent, Dr. Chen reassured him. But these emotional abilities are just as vital for success and happiness. They form the foundation of meaningful relationships and effective leadership. As they left Harvard's campus, Elon reflected on the conversation he'd just witnessed. His son's responses revealed a depth of compassion and wisdom that challenged many of his own notions about intelligence and achievement. They crossed Harvard Yard, X occasionally skipping to keep up with his father's long strides. Autumn leaves crunched underfoot, and students hurried to afternoon classes. The historic building stood firm and majestic around them, holding centuries of knowledge and learning. "I'm very proud of how you answered those questions today," Elon said as they headed back to the car. "Did I do good?" X asked, hopping beside his father. "You did much better than good," Elon replied. "You showed a special kind of intelligence that notices when others need help and wants to give it." X accepted the praise with the genuine delight children often show when earning parental approval. "Can we get ice cream before heading back to the hotel?" Elon smiled at the typical 5-year-old request following such a profound discussion. "Yes, I think ice cream sounds perfect." They found a small ice cream shop near campus, where X carefully selected chocolate with colorful sprinkles, and Elon chose vanilla. They sat at a small table by the window, watching the afternoon pedestrian traffic and enjoying their treats. "Dad," X said, scooping his ice cream, "do you think I can really help sad people when I grow up?" Elon considered the question thoughtfully. "I think you're already helping people feel better just by being kind and noticing when they're sad. As you grow, you might find even more ways to do that." "Like what?" X asked, intrigued. "Well, there are many jobs that help with people's feelings. Doctors who help with emotional struggles. Teachers who make kids enjoy learning. Artists who create things that bring joy to others. Or I could build special places, like my house," X suggested. "Places where sad people could come to feel better." "That's a wonderful idea," Elon agreed. "The world needs more places like that." As they finished their ice cream and returned to the hotel, Elon saw his son in a new light. He'd always taken pride in X's intellect and creativity. But today, he discovered another facet of his character, perhaps even more valuable: a natural capacity for empathy and a desire to ease others' suffering. That evening, after X fell asleep in the hotel room, Elon sent a text message to X's mother. He shared what had happened during the evaluation. "You should be proud of him," he wrote. "He mentioned how you taught him that everyone needs someone who cares about them. That wisdom has clearly taken root." Meanwhile, across campus, Dr. Chen reviewed her session notes several times. In her research report, she later wrote that the subject demonstrated exceptional emotional intelligence and empathic thinking. His responses indicated an intuitive understanding of human suffering and an instinctive desire to alleviate it through emotional, rather than material, intervention. Such other-oriented thinking is highly unusual for his developmental stage. She included a detailed analysis of X's response to the superpower question, noting that while most children chose abilities enhancing their own skills or status, X selected a power entirely focused on easing others' emotional pain. This choice revealed a value system prioritizing connection and comfort over personal achievement, a perspective rarely seen in such young children. It suggests either an extraordinary innate capacity for empathy or exceptional emotional nurturing in his family environment, or possibly both. She wrote that further studies as the subject matures would be valuable to understand how this empathic orientation evolves over time, especially within a family context valuing high achievement and innovation. The next morning, before heading home, Elon and X visited the Harvard Museum of Natural History at X's request. Wandering among impressive dinosaur skeletons and mineral exhibits, Elon noticed his son with fresh understanding. He observed how X offered to photograph a family struggling with a selfie, how he stepped aside to let a smaller child view a popular exhibit, and how he thanked each museum staff member they encountered. These small acts of consideration weren't for show or to earn approval, they seemed innate, an instinctive awareness of others' needs and feelings. That evening, during the flight home, X fell asleep clutching a small plush dinosaur bought at the museum gift shop. Gazing at his son's peaceful face, Elon reflected on what he'd learned during their brief Harvard trip. His companies had always been guided by ambitious missions, revolutionizing transport, advancing sustainable energy, making humanity multiplanetary. These were grand technological visions aimed at humanity's biggest challenges. But his 5-year-old son reminded him of something equally crucial: alongside these global solutions, people need emotional connection, understanding, and compassion. Perhaps, Elon thought, this was the wisdom he needed to more fully integrate into his work and life. The technological innovations he pursued could address practical human problems, but meeting the need for connection and emotional well-being was no less essential. In the weeks following their return, Elon began paying closer attention to the emotional aspects of his interactions, not just with X, but with all his children, employees, and people he met in his busy life. He noticed more when someone seemed sad or stressed and made greater efforts to acknowledge those feelings rather than focusing solely on practical fixes. He also carved out more time for conversations with X beyond practical or intellectual topics. They discussed feelings, X's observations of people around him, and things that brought joy or solace in tough times. These talks revealed that X's emotional intelligence wasn't limited to the insights he shared with Dr. Chen, it was a constant part of his work. This concludes our narrative journey. I trust you found this gripping saga of intrigue, cutting-edge innovation, and astonishing discoveries captivating. From where are you tuning in today? I'm curious to learn which corner of the globe this tale has touched. If this escapade held your interest, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel for a steady stream of compelling, mind-expanding stories just like this one. Fresh material is posted frequently, ensuring you're always in the loop for the newest spellbinding adventures. Be sure to pass this video along to your loved ones and friends. It's a great way to share positivity and insight while expanding our circle of story enthusiasts. Your encouragement is invaluable. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to welcoming you back for the next tale.